Om Akanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Good evening to all of you present here. I am Anvita and I am going to be your host for today. While we go on this journey to learn more about hormones as a mandala from Dr. Jayashree. Dr. Jayashree started off her professional journey with an MD in microbiology and serving as a medical doctor. She is a gold medalist and holds a record of teaching at various medical colleges and hospitals for about a decade now. She has also trained in transactional analysis for several years. She was fascinated by Louis Hay's work on connecting body, mind, emotions, and spirit, and started looking at the human body as a whole and began exploring health in terms of spiritual health and not just physical, emotional, and mental health. She now works as a consultant psychologist and counselor and life skills coach. She is also an internationally certified workshop leader for the program named Heal Your Life and runs a program called AHA, Adolescent Holistic Awareness, for the past 10 years. Apart from her profession, Jayashree is also a loving mother to 2 boys and a loving wife to her husband, who is a neurologist. She enjoys traveling and is an avid reader. She also enjoys Carnatic music and loves playing the veena. Welcome, Jayashree.
Namaste everyone. Thank you, Anvita, for this introduction.
Thank you. Apart from Jayashree, on our panel of interviewers today, we have Bhagyashree and Sivapriya. Bhagyashree is an artist, explorer, and is on her pursuit to explore the mandala of life by connecting one dot at a time. Hi, Bhagya.
Hello, everyone.
Our other interviewer, Sivapriya, is a dancer, explorer, who has been associated with mandalas for a long time now. She is an avid learner of space. Hi, Sivapriya.
Hello, thank you.
Over to you guys.
Thank you, Anvi. Hi, Jayashree.
Hi, Shiva.
So my curiosity is all about what made you to go into this research of hormones. What is your connect with hormones?
Yeah, wonderful question, Shiva. For me, I started sometime like as a medical doctor, as a medical student. I have studied, the anatomy, the physiology, and the effects of hormonal imbalances. But then I started studying further only when I was training to become a psychotherapist. And I was invited to, at least speak about endocrine system to, trainee psychotherapists and counselors. And that was an opportunity for me to start looking deeper into the connect between the physical body, the emotional, and the mental systems of human. So that was when it started to really fascinate me to see how the psyche and the soma are connected. And yeah.
Wow, wonderful.
Yeah.
So what happened after that? what was the personal connection which came in within you when you started learning all those things?
Okay. One thing I started becoming aware was that there is a connection between the emotional, the mental aspect, and the body. And when we look at how modern medicine has been, at least the allopathic educational system, and how they've been treating only the symptoms and ignoring that aspect. It's like just putting band-aid, but not looking deeper into why this person is having an hormonal imbalance, what is happening inside them. And so when I started learning more about the emotional connect, I started observing people around me, and it's also
Mm,
observing myself and also observing. And that's when I started to make those connections, and it started making it really started resonating with me. Yes, there is a connection, and this has to be, if we could educate people about this, help them
mm,
understand that what the body is, what's happening in the body is not just isolated. There is a
mm.
connection with the mind, and there is something higher also happening there. I think then the true healing would happen, and that was how I've been going about it. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So from one thing of like you have to give a talk, then it became a curiosity to learn more, and then it went on. So yeah, I could see the connect over here. Thank you, Jayashree.
So, Jayashree, as you explained the different, like now, as you were explaining, you talked about the different dimensions, like how your interest came in and how you jumped into it from the other angle. Like you were studying it from a medical background point of view, but you also started getting into it from inside, like understanding the psychological aspect. So, I see there are multiple aspects to this hormone factor that we're talking about, the hormone dimension. So, how do you see this hormone as a mandala? Like we are
Yeah.
exploring body as a mandala, this hormone system as a mandala. How do you see that as a mandala?
When I was asked to talk about this hormones, the first thing which it struck me was like, there's a harmony came up. I was like, okay, there is if you look at the root, harmony, though the meanings would be different, but there was something which connected. And then if you Google, you will see that endocrine system, from where these hormones are being secreted. There is a very common metaphor used for the endocrine system, that of a musical orchestra. And that was something which really resonated. Yes, this is like a mandala. If you look at the musical orchestra, you have a conductor in the middle with his stick going up and down. Okay, the violins, okay, the viola or trumpets or the drums. So here in the body we have a central point, and from where things actually expand out. And I could see that as like a mandala which is expanding. And very interestingly, if you look at this, these hormones are not only helping, or involved in the normal functioning of the body. These are also helping us to actually interact with the outside, external environment. And likewise, if you see, the external environment is also affecting the hormones. So you can see there's an inside out and an outside in, like a mandala, uh, which can expand from inside to the out, or we enter from outside in. So we can understand this system by either looking from what's happening from outside and go within, or we can look at what's happening inside and then come out. So that's how I'm connecting this with a mandala. And like a musical orchestra, if all the instruments are being played like they have to be, there's a beautiful harmony which comes in, and that is so pleasing to the ears. And then there is, you feel elevated. Yeah. But even one instrument starts going, wrong, off tune, and then there's sort of a jarring effect, and sometimes many go off tune, then there's cacophony. So that's how I would see the endocrine system also as a mandala.
Oh, It's wonderful how you connected the word harmony with the harmonious and harmony. Really
Yes.
nice. So another thing which is like connecting to this itself, like how do you see like Jayashree post an understanding of hormones and pre-understanding of hormones, like before the point you really got into hormones, and after that point, what really changed in your relationships as a mother, as a parent, as a wife?
Oh,
How did
yeah,
it change?
that's been a wonderful journey. I have to say that understanding of what happens within and what is happening outside. So, what are the as I will continue, I can also be sharing. There are hormones which help us to uh, feel happy, which helps us in bonding with other people. And there are times when I start to feel, you know, alone, or sometimes it's somewhere I start to realize, okay, this is what I want. What is that I want? Then I go looking, go looking for it in healthy ways. I started to realize that there are healthy ways of uh, getting things done, wanting or fulfilling some desire. So it becomes very um, natural. And and as far as for children, coming with not only just with children, I have also realized with grown-ups also. So what is that the other one is looking for? What is the bonding? What is that? Why people behave the way they behave? What's that they're looking for? So that is was something which I started getting in touch with. And then other thing, as a psychotherapist, I would say that many times a person who is having an imbalance in the hormones would sometimes come end up in your counseling room or your therapist room, and it becomes a personal responsibility as a professional to rule out these disorders before you go in for any other emotional or whatever therapy you want to do with the client. So this has been my experience with it.
Okay, okay.
I think I will add something else apart from
Yes,
that.
yes, please go
Is
ahead.
also is also knowing about the hormones and how they are secreted, when they are secreted. I think it's broad. I've been working towards getting into an order in my own daily living, somewhere aligning with how this hormonal system works. Yeah.
When you say that, Jayashree, how do I understand that? How do I understand that the hormones are working? How do I understand whether they are balanced or imbalanced? Like, yeah.
Yeah. I think the question we need to ask ourselves is how instead of knowing hormones is something which is working unconsciously. We're not. How do I know my life is out of balance? I think that's something which will actually give us a clue to how the hormones are going out of balance. So when we look at our own lives, everyday lives, am I able to function the way I have been functioning? Or have sudden, most of the time people come, women, or, they come with sleep disturbances. They're not able to sleep, or weight gain, weight loss. And then women, the menstrual cycles going off track. They're having that. And then it could be excessive sweating, palpitations. So these are ways where this is the clues which are coming to tell you there is something going off balance. And that's loss of appetite or excessive eating, increased thirst. So these are the symptoms which people would come, and or you would know yourself that there is an imbalance. When things are going well, none of us actually look at our body or even our
Hmm.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do we connect with that? Like, how can I make myself healthy? Or because only when something hits us, then we go into that, okay, I've been detected with this, I've been diagnosed with that, my hormones are going here and there. So how do we go about that?
Okay. This is where, what I learned from Louis Hay's teachings really helped. When there is ease in the body, none of us look at it. None of us even bother to look at what's it. And we don't even realize the connection between the body and the mind. And I would look, and Louis Hay says, look at disease as a way of telling you there's something happening. Dis-ease, there is a disease coming in, actually as an indication, telling there's something, and that look, take a pause, sit down, see what's happening in your life, and look around what is happening. So I would say, instead of trying to wish away something which is coming up, if you can look at it as a gift and see, okay, this is clue. And I have a favorite quote which I say that, listen to the body when it whispers. Don't wait for it to scream. Yeah. And our body it continuously keeps giving us signals. And people end up in a hospital, in a doctor's consultation, it's when they have ignored these whispers and they go straight when it screams. So, yeah, we have to start really slowing down and spending time with ourselves to listen to those whispers.
Yeah. I think that is the basic and the most intimate connect we would have with the body. Even when the smallest whisper comes, if we are very well connected, that means we can even just before it whispers, we will be able to connect with that.
Yeah, even a toe pain will have something to tell you.
True.
But how many of us even sit quietly to ask that toe, what's that you want to tell me? Yeah.
True. Yeah. Thank you. That was really wonderful. That sentence, I think every one of us will like, okay, let me listen, let me whisper, see the listening. Thank you, Jayashree, for that.
Yeah, that sentence is going to be registered, I'm sure, for all of us. Listen to the body when it whispers, not when it screams or cries.
Screams,
so,
yes.
Yeah, like we're also lost in the noise outside at times that we barely pay attention to what is happening here. So, yeah. So, Jayashree, when I was when I was here to take an interview of you, I did a little bit of research about the hormones, but not everybody has that understanding. So, can you just explain us from the basic, like what are these hormones? What is the endocrine system? How does it impact our day-to-day lives for us to, get started?
Okay. Then you have to understand in the body, we have two types of glands. One is the exocrine gland and that is an endocrine gland. And when we look at the exocrine gland, these are glands which have got ducts. So whatever they secrete is at the, very close to where they are present anatomically in the body. For example, the pancreas would release enzymes which will act in the small intestine. However, the endocrine glands are glands, in different parts of the body. And what they secrete is secreted into the bloodstream. And they are carried across the hormones. These are the what is secreted, the secretions are called hormones. And these are carried to different for all the parts of the body. And they work, everywhere. So if you look at this, these are chemical molecules. They're like molecules, like messenger system. We have for example, if you just look now, this girl is coming off. She's around 10 or 11. The pituitary will decide it's time for her to start. I'm just giving menstruating, and then the hormones cascade starts there and works on the ovary, on the uterus, and the menarche happens there. So it's like, it goes, and you have to see there are receptors on different cells. They don't work randomly. The hormones will work specific, like a lock and key. They will go and connect to the specific receptors. So these receptors are like our ears. You can just imagine the music um, produced by these hormones will be received by these receptors, and the effect which is coming after that is like the emotions we feel after listening to a beautiful musical orchestra. So these hormones work like in all the metabolic pathways in the body: sugar metabolism, calcium metabolism, and then if you look at the sexual growth, then reproductive system, sexual activities, and basic cellular metabolism. All this is by the hormones. And these are hormones are also acting like an interface between the, I think, computer wheel, or you know what is an interface better. But anyway, they act like an interface between the nervous system and the hormone system. So this one. So like there is a conduct, just like a musical orchestra. The endocrine system has got one gland which is like a conductor. Anvita, can you share that first slide, please?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So if you look at the main gland which is there, no, if basically people say the pituitary, but right above the pituitary is the hypothalamus. These two glands, like the hypothalamus pituitary axis, these two glands are like the conductor of the orchestra, and they produce lot of hormones which in turn act on the other glands. So we have one in the throat called as the thyroid, and then the parathyroid, and then there is the thymus, adrenal glands, and then the testis and the ovaries in women. So these are the, and then so the conductor is the pituitary gland, the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and then from the pituitary goes the signals to all the other glands to produce specific hormones. And the beauty of this is just not continuously, you can't have the violin continuously playing. So the conductor, and then there is a feedback mechanism happening. Once there is a level which reaches, there is a feedback mechanism. The brain, the pituitary, hypothalamus picks up that level has reached, and then it decreases the hormone, the stimulating hormone. So basically, from the pituitary goes all the stimulating hormones. We'll have the thyroid stimulating hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormone. So these are all the hormones which will go straight and act on the specific glands. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That was a concise understanding of like where all things are and how they are reduced. Thank you for that information. So, why is it important for one person to understand hormones? Like even before this, I did not have any understanding of hormones, but my body is operating. What after getting this understanding, or after understanding these different aspects, like these hormones are getting released in such a situation, why is it important for us to understand, or what can we really tune or change after getting that understanding?
We need to learn that there is like just like everything in nature, there is a rhythm. Like I said, even the music is like a rhythmic, harmonized, organized. So like that, even the hormonal system has a rhythm. When is each hormone released? That's something, we need to understand. When is each released? But if you look at our modern day life, it's like there is no rhythm. We are not in rhythm with nature. And the hormones are also, it's like as if The body wants to go one way, there is the mind which is going another way. And imagine what is happening there, the jarring effect happening there. And there is a cacophony, like disharmonious, and it is not music anymore in the body. And then, finally you end up with a disease. So it's important for us all to know when each hormone is produced. Like, we are, for children at least, we say, sleep is very important. Sleep is very important because it's in the night when the growth hormone grows, is released. So the growth is, it helps the child's growth. Uh, Anvita can share the second slide. I think I've just put up about the circadian rhythm, how sleep is very important. It's during sleep, just before waking, some hormones which are released. Yeah. If you look at it from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., that's when, the time when most of the hormones are getting released. And yeah, so if you look at, just look at this from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And there is, this is the natural circadian rhythm happening in the body, which is like, sort of a program inside the body. It's a divine program in the body. And when we are going against this natural cycle, imagine if the sleep timings are from, I don't know, some people nowadays sleep at 2 o'clock, wake up the next day morning at 2 o'clock. Yeah. And then they complain of fatigue, they complain of lack of motivation, they feel depressed. You can see how we are actually going against that cycle, and then we get into another vicious cycle of not feeling well at all. So health is not maintained. So there's no natural homeostasis or equilibrium happening in the body at that point. Yeah, does that answer?
Yeah, it does. I didn't know that so much is happening when I'm sleeping. Thank you.
Yeah.
So when I see this 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., all these hormones are getting released at that time. As you said, like a lot of people are going to the night shifts also. Their lifestyle have changed. A lot of people are going to bed very too late, or so a lot of things are changing. So how do we support the body in supporting the hormone system so that it comes back to the health, or going with the circadian rhythm as such?
See, this is somewhere, if you look at the body, how it is set with sunrise, sunset. As the sun keeps dipping, the body also starts, somewhere the production of the cortisols have started, you see, because the body doesn't need activity. And then just before the morning, 6 o'clock is when the cortisol rush is there, because we get up, we need that. So if it's unavoidable that you need to do these, okay, then you have to give that time to the body to recover also. If it can be planned in a way, it's not like, all the time sleeping late. So it says, it actually takes 1 to 2 weeks for the body to come back to equilibrium. So if you could give that time to the body, if there's been this one, it's something also, I think it's a very personal thing. If it is causing a lot of issues, some people can manage, and it also depends on each one's constitution, general health, if there are any other illnesses in the body. So depending on that, it also then it's the individual person's decision. If that is not suiting, it is not suiting. So they have to take that call. What's important? Yeah.
Right. I'm connecting with this actually, because I go to bed by 9 o'clock, max 10 o'clock. So it'll be like the next day I'll get up very early, like 4:30 or 5. I'll just get up just like that if I have that nice good sleep. If I go late the next day, I'll be like so cranky, and that will be like the yesterday's things will be all get spilled over in the today's thing. That kind of crankiness will also happen. So that is also the effect of the hormonal things which is happening. Is that
And that is also,
is my
yes, yes,
understanding right?
that is also a signal which is coming to you. That,
Yeah, okay.
Which
Like,
if you don't acknowledge it, then that crankiness will become something else after a week. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Thank you, Jayashree, for that.
So it's about spotting those small things that the body keeps telling. Like if there is a burp, it is telling something. If there is a headache, it is telling something. If there is a pain somewhere, it is telling something. It's about us to really pause and see that and understand that it is telling something.
Yeah, it's easier to reach out to a coffee or a headache, take a paracetamol, and suppressing what the things are coming, and not even giving some time to understand what's happening. And then giving what the body needs. If it's sleep, I think we all can forego sleep, at least ready for some time, but then the body starts saying, I'm not able to. So that's when we have to be able to pick it up. I had this, sometimes I'm very tired, but I be so tired, I feel that I start developing some cravings. But then I had to tell myself, I am not hungry. I am sleepy. I just need to go and sleep. And that started working for me.
Yeah, I can relate it to a lot because for me also, like at the end of a tiring day, I'll be like, okay, I want to eat a lot of food, but it's just some other tiredness which I'm taking out on food. Yeah. So I have another question, Jeshri. Like, it's a very blanket suggestion these days. Like anywhere we go and ask, okay, what do I do to, balance my hormones, or what do I do to balance my body? It's like exercise. You do exercise, and then the body will be fit, and everything will fall back in the shape and things like that. So, what is really happening in the body when we are exercising? How do hormones play up? How do they help when we are exercising?
That's a good question, which I actually with personal experience and by reading up, I have been making some connections. Exercise is good. Exercise is, when we are into moderate exercise, where we are, many people look at, either wanting to build up the muscle strength or weight loss or something. It could be anything, but as long as it's somewhere it's a moderate exercise, maybe 30 minutes to 45 minutes every day, and you know where you end up feeling good. So exercises actually then are triggering the release of an neurotransmitter in the brain called as endorphins. And these endorphins are actually, if you look at it, they're also released after eating chocolates, but we don't want to be eating. But any exercises are like, these endorphins are actually called natural painkillers. So, and then there is a sense of, you feel good after exercising. And so that is somewhere the mind starts to relax. Once the mind is relaxed, the body relaxes. The body is relaxed, that stress levels come down. And there is an auto regulation which is happening. So you have to see this exercise itself is a physical stress. So when we say stress means something, beyond the above the normal activities we are doing something more. So that is a stress to the body. So whenever there is physical or psychological stress, the body releases an hormone from the adrenal glands called as the cortisol. So this exercises will actually cause an increase in the cortisols. So this is something which we need to understand is the cortisol production in the body usually is in early morning. 6 o'clock it starts because see, when we wake up and we are out of bed, we get into our doing. And for that, we need this cortisol, which will pump up the body to work. So that is when the cortisol has increased. And when you are also going with that and work, exercising mornings, early mornings, it is in tune with that increase in cortisol levels. But what happens nowadays, people are working offices, long hours, but they've heard exercise, exercise. So they come back and they start doing it in the night, evening or the night. So you have to understand in the body, the circadian rhythm, the cortisol levels. By evening, we are actually supposed to start slowing down. So the circadian rhythm, by 6 o'clock, the cortisol levels have started to come down. And you start going and exercising. You're going against that natural rhythm. Even there's evening, if still there is time, because by sometime 1 to 2 hours, it comes down to equilibrium. But there are people who work out in the night. I know I've seen all this influencers who anyway this movie actors were proudly showing off working out 2 o'clock in the night, and I mean I don't know, but we see that what is happening there is sustained increase. That level of cortisol in the blood is high and it is sustained. And if you're doing it every day, imagine what is happening in the body. In the body, there is a sustained high levels of cortisol, which is not needed. And this itself will give rise to side effects. This is one way where we have to look at the timing of the exercises and how much we exercise. There is another category of people like compulsive exercisers. These compulsive exercises, 2-3 hours of exercising every day. And these people actually are coming from a negative self-belief. They are not happy with how their bodies look. So they're dissatisfied with the body. So they're never happy with how the bodies look. So they work out for two, and it becomes an obsession with them. So again, it doesn't give to the the result which we're looking for. What is exercise for? To being fit. And anyway, I mean, when I look at how we are being, this exercises to keep ourselves fit, but this goes beyond that. And when we do a moderate exercise, it actually is a mood elevator. But this goes beyond that. And then what happens is the opposite happens. These people will have depression, and they're so obsessed with bodybuilding and all that stuff. The social isolation and psychological issues also. So this is about the exercise part.
Thank you very much. This was very informative. Like otherwise, it is like okay, exercise. But this has changed the way, like the timing at which we're exercising, the mood in which we're exercising, the duration in which we're exercising. That and all is also important. Thank you.
See, people are there who will be practicing for marathons, ultra marathons. So it's important that they give a gap between the this marathon to them, because there is a high cortisol level already in the body. So if they can give 2 weeks of gap, or you incorporate meditation in the day, where you sit quietly, allow the equilibrium to come. So this is very important. So this knowing that physical stress itself increases the cortisol levels. At one point, that it can be a stress buster, but then it can sustain the side effects of it can become somewhere a chronic stress if the levels are sustained. So incorporating meditation into the day, giving 2 weeks of break is very important.
Got it. Thank you.
Relating when you said exercise, Jayashree, I work with a lot of students actually. So what happens when somebody becomes a little fat or they become a little thin? So immediately what they have been asked is like, go check your thyroid level. So one of my cousins have become so big that immediately one of my uncles said, okay, you have to check your thyroid levels. And he was pushing him to check the thyroid levels, and it was completely normal. So what is the connect with this, and how do this thyroid imbalance comes in? So I'm curious about to know that.
Yeah, I mean, when you're saying that, that has happened to me also, but my thyroid levels have been normal for over years. I just to please my family, I get it done. This word, uh, uh, you know, it's become like the how it has become is what we weren't seeing this many, thyroid cases or hormonal imbalance in the thyroid many years ago. Even if you look 50 years ago, it's not there. And if you look at how the imbalances are happening, it's either hypo, where is low production of the hormones, or hyper, where there is high production of the hormones. And it was identified, iodine deficiency is the common cause of low production of the hormones. So there was iodized salt which is being produced. And then there are, where there is an effect directly on the gland, some damage to the gland here. And then it could be primarily like, autoimmune disorder, where the body is attacking its own cells, or it could be an infection or some inflammation. And mostly it's like, that iodine deficiency, or it could be um, somewhere something wrong in the pituitary. That would be this one. And then hyper is again primarily something wrong with the thyroid gland. It starts producing too much of the thyroid hormones. It could be again because of some inflammation, and or excessive iodine again. People excessive iodine, and sometimes you'll see people with some here. When they swallow, you will be able to see that gland
Adam's
which is
apple.
enlarged. No, Adam's apple is there, but above that you can see a softer swelling. When people swallow, it will go up and down. Even now we can
Yeah.
actually, so that is, it will become a little thick, larger, and soft swelling. So that is like a goiter, we call it as.
Right.
So goiter could be because of low thyroid or high thyroid. So when we look at thyroid hormones itself, thyroid hormones is very important in all the cellular activities, metabolic activities. It's a very important hormone in the body. I'm not going fully, I mean, looking into the medical aspect of this thyroid hormone as such, but I'm as a medical doctor. What I found very interesting was when I was learning from Louis Hay's teachings. This is a recent phenomenon. So we need to really look at now everything. No, you see, it's genetics. You see everything. But what about the environmental conditions? What's happening there? And look at the position of this thyroid. Where is it? Is it the throat? So here Louis Hay comes up with, this is the center for expression, voicing it out. We voice out ourselves. And this is also somewhere where our creativity emerges. So this is the center where it's about expression. And when there are emotional blockages, it's like, look at how what's happening. Women who are not able to express themselves and doing things to please others. And even for children, I have seen that if overbearing parents, the child is not able to speak up against the parent. So all these are unexpressed thoughts, feelings. Somewhere the emotional blockage happens here, and it affects the thyroid functioning. And it would look like a hypothesis unless you start observing. And I have started to observe after reading this up. And I can say that maybe not all of them, but in most of the people, now you see every second, a third woman will be telling a thyroid. So we really need to ask why it is more. Thyroid issues are more in women. And so there's something we need to really ask. What is the psychosomatic basis of these illnesses? And, what is it? Because they holding back themselves in the fear of offending somebody else. The expression is lost.
True.
And yeah, so, and inability to speak out, the social conditioning, even in our workplaces, wherever we are, if I'm not able to express myself fully, if not, I'm not able to be true, then there's some this one. And I feel that when medical doctors, it's important now to actually address the issue as a medical doctor also. What is that, if it is hypo or hyper? But I think not just with that we need to stop. We need to go further, deeper into it, and look at what is the psychological cause of it. And and as women, the people who do start working on the block, we are looking at what are the beliefs about themselves, what is the belief about others, their situation, learning to draw boundaries, learning to be able to express themselves fully. That the dose of the drug also will start reducing. This has been my um, personal experience.
Oh, this is in depth actually when you connect it to the psychological part of it actually. The psychosomatic is the term which we really have to look into that further, because first of all, in society there are a lot of belief system, as you said. The physical thing is seen as separate and the mental thing is seen as separate, but there is a it's all very interconnected and we don't see that actually. And as you said, one in three women come up with a thyroid issue. Like they say that I have thyroid. The same way, there is PCOS. One in 5 to 10 women, like whomever I meet, like they come as a client, they say like I have PCOS problem. So what is it all about, Jayashree?
Yeah. For everyone else, PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. Now we have to actually, there is another term called as polycystic ovarian disease. There are two things and they were not same. Like polycystic ovarian disease might be more common than the syndrome. Like in normally in a menstrual cycle, there would be the maturation of one follicle, then formation of one ovum, which is fully mature. Now, what happens in polycystic ovarian disease is more than one cyst will start maturing, but the ovum inside is not uh, um, fully mature. So there is some two or three. But this still is not an issue because women with polycystic ovarian disease can still conceive normally. They might not have any disturbances in their menstrual cycles. When we come to polycystic ovarian syndrome, that is something which is this ovary, because of the malfunctioning of the hormone thing and abnormal hormonal levels, the ovary now starts to produce. There are going to be multiple cysts in the ovary. I don't know if I have shared any video. Anyway, if you can imagine the ovary, there are multiple cysts. These multiple cysts are not going to rupture, nor are the egg, one single egg which is inside it, going to mature. They're all premature. And then because in these women, the male hormone, the androgenic hormone, the testosterone hormone is high. And so you can imagine then that menstrual cycles are also like, they won't have menstruation, they will have spotting, they might have it for once in 6 months, some people I know. And then there is weight gain, and the weight gain is around the abdomen. A lot of weight gain around the abdominal fat increases. And then they have facial hair, male type of baldness, whereas the front hair here in the front starts thinning out. And this is seen in 10% of the women, at least. Imagine that's quite a lot. 10 out of this one. So you can see that it is um, this one. So if you look at polycystic ovarian disorder, so you can say somewhere there is an increase in the male hormone. So now this I found it very interesting. Again, when we look at the possible causes, uh, and I think they like to just give up genetics. But if you look at it, I found an article which says this was not an issue in the 19th century. Polycystic ovarian syndrome and disease have started in the 20th. The 20th, it's a illness of the 21st and 20th and 21st. And we are seeing women with infertility issues. And you see the number of fertility centers which have cropped up. And this is somewhere we really need to ask what is happening. It's very easy to say, okay, they have this patient has got polio, and then you start giving them the treatment. I have seen, yeah, girls, young girls, struggling with that, where they're this one. But we are not looking at the psychological aspect of it, and this is where I have been looking and trying to make some connections with this. And of course, Louise Hay also says when we look at where the ovaries are placed, it is in the pelvic region. And if you look at I mean, I wouldn't want to talk about something which I don't know much, but still, it's the where it is about our identification, identity. The ovary and the testes are like what makes you the gender you are. So it's about identity. And I feel there is a lot of components here for a child which is growing up. If the child is not celebrated for the girl she is, the woman she is, I have to, this is something, where when, and imagine this message to the child is not even, sometimes it's in utero. The parents wanted a boy. Pre-verbal, it might be the parents are very happy and they show it, but there are a lot of unsaid messages which are picked up. So this could also be a component. I'm not saying this is the only component. I think we need to look and work towards the psychosomatic level. What is happening? What are the because I've seen girls, it's there's low self-esteem. Obviously, they're having, just imagine, loss of hair, facial hair. They're trying so hard to lose weight, and nobody's addressing the part which is like where there is the low self-esteem, rejection of self, no self-love. And imagine there is increased androgens, the male hormone. Look at the confused identity in the body there. So I would say, uh, if parents realize, and rejoice and celebrate and accept the gender of the baby they have been given, and there's such divine qualities of being a feminine, and encouraging those qualities. These qualities are, imagine, only the women have got the capacity to carry life within them. So it's about creativity, creation, and it is about somewhere it is nurturing. And when this child is not even, it's shamed, humiliated, where is the nurturing there? So there's too much of confusion in the psyche, I would say. Also would there's no compassion towards self, the intuitive nature is lost, and So all this, and there is a lot of suppressed joy. So this all could be contributing factors, I would say. If there is sudden increase, if you look at the 20th and the 21st century, I'm sure our grandmothers had no confusion about their roles. Great grandmothers had no confusion about their roles. But I think as we started, as the parents have started to have dreams for their daughters, are we forgetting something about? Are we bringing up our daughters as daughters, or daughter to be a son? Is something we have to ask.
Yeah, wonderfully said, Jayashree. Because nowadays, if you could see, gyms are for both men and women. It's like all unisex. And when women started to build muscles, they want to show up their biceps and triceps, and a lot of things. As you said, there is a confusion which is going on, which can be seen in a very large manner in the society, even. Yeah. So I think we need to address that, as you said, the nurturing, that rejoicing of the birth of a child, the girl baby in the family is very much needed to the core, from the heart of it. Yeah, that confusion is actually creating a lot of difference and the mess. As you said, there is a difference between 19th and the 20th century as of now. Yeah, that, yes, that was wonderful. Thank you, Jayashree.
Yeah, this was really different. Like I felt that you having a background of medical as well as psychological aspect, that beautiful blend is coming out. Like what is happening in the system chemically, and how the upbringing or the psychological aspect is also affecting things. So it's not just something is wrong in the body, it is why it is wrong, the outside environment where it is coming from. That is an eye opener.
Yeah, I have to add that it's not about stopping women from going out and doing what they in the society or contributing towards the society. It's to be in tune with the feminine qualities. If there are so many things, the intuition part of it, the creative part of it, the nurturing part of it. So if that could be tapped in, but what is happening, here women, there's a saying also, trying to be a woman in a man's world, or a man in a man's, I don't know what. So you don't be the woman you are and contribute, or yeah. So that brings in so much of variety into the whatever work this one. So we the intuitive part of the woman or the feminine quality there brings in so much of different perspectives to that, some of the issues. Yeah.
Thank you so much. There are a lot of questions, comments coming in the chat as well. Anvi, can you take up a couple of questions now, then we'll move on to the next aspect.
Sure. We have, okay. Okay, so the first question is from Dharani. Hormones in my body. How do I work on bringing the balance, like the changes in and around me?
Can that be a bit more specific, like?
Dharani?
I think Dharani can type her question in brief in the chat again. Can you move on to the next question?
Okay. So the next question is from Raghavan. He says, why do these hormonal imbalance occur? For instance, the thyroid hormone imbalance developed in many women in their 20s and 30s, which is not genetic, something they develop over time. Why does the thyroid gland work in an excessive or in a recessive way? Are there factors we can employ, or some diet habits or activities to get rid of this imbalance and bring it back into balance?
I think I covered largely about what the psychological component is, where there is an inability to express, and suppression of that expression, self-expression. So we look at sometimes it's just a belief that I'm not able to express it. So we have to really peel the layers and see what is happening, what do I understand by expression of self. And yes, if you look at now why 20s and 30s it is happening, if you look at it somewhere, we are brought, I mean, at least from my own, I can say, I was brought up to contribute towards the society. I was educated, I have come out, but then I realized it's not really um, allowing me to express all my abilities and my talents, the situations around me. And yeah, sometimes it could be because there is a gender bias, or sometimes I'm in the wrong place. Yeah. So, that is where we need to really look at what could be the beliefs. We could go really into the core beliefs of uh, these illnesses.
Thank you, Jayashree. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
We have another question from Sudharsan. He says, learning to listen to the body is a huge takeaway. Thanks for sharing that. And you also briefly mentioned the mind and the body connection. The obvious connection that I could relate to from my personal experience is when my body is going through some pain. For example, if I forget to drink water all day, I have a headache in the evening. I'm not able to think clearly. So I understand the body impacts the mind connection. Is there the mind impacts the body connection as well? Could you talk about that connection?
Yeah. That's a good, like I like that inside out, outside in. We can see here also how the mind can affect the body. Now, when we say, how mind, like, imbalances of the mind, or how do we know what are the imbalances of the mind? It's only what you are thinking, I can only know by how you are expressing it out, either through your body language, either through. None of us are actually taking time and looking at what are the thoughts I'm thinking. And even the human brain goes through 70,000 thoughts per day. And most of this get repeated the next day. So if it is a negative thought pattern which we are getting into, and we are not even conscious of that thought pattern, like, you wake up thinking, or at least you don't know, I don't like my boss, I don't like my boss, I don't like my boss, is something which is coming. So everything is, but this is something so unconscious. We have not taken the time to sit down and just look at what is the thought. So these negative thought patterns and the mind is like, the is reinforcing your beliefs, this one. And very interestingly, there has been, like, a lot of research which is coming out that there are molecules which are connecting the mind. The thought, I mean, when we're looking at it, it's basically happening in the brain there. So what is happening in the brain there is, it is actually working on the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic. So somewhere the stress starts building up in the body, and the cortisol levels start increasing. So there are some molecules which are involved in this. The researchers are showing that body is not very separated from the brain or something like that, even in emotions aspect of it. So there are molecules of the emotion is a wonderful book, if which is connecting the body and the mind. So this researcher actually started with working to find a drug for HIV, and then she's finally, identified the molecules. These are all peptides, neuropeptides. The brain is also releasing something into the, and it is affecting the body. And we have to look at it this way. When we look at emotions, it's an energy in motion. It's something like that, the cliched word, like energy in motion. And when this energy is not expressed in healthy ways, where will it go? Anything which is generated and it is not being released, where will it go? It gets into the body, and then it gets locked in different parts of the body. Yeah. So it gets locked. So like I was saying, it could be in the throat. It could be, I have been observing, I can say, even Some in the neck, some people have a neck spray, or it could be the headache, or it could be earache, head pain in the great toe, ankles, heel, knee. So based on the thought patterns, Louise has identified that these parts specifically it would affect. For example, um, knees. Let us look at knees. You have a knee pain. So we are going now retrograde and looking at the thought pattern or the emotions attached to it, because we are not taking time to even look at our emotions. If you look at the joints are all where you're flexing. It's an area of mobility in the body. And when we have rigid thought patterns, I keep thinking the same thing. I keep thinking I'm very stubbornly holding on to some belief of mine. This rigidity is actually seen in the knee joints and the joints. Could be the knee, it could be anywhere else. And then the people will develop uh, knee pain. And because somewhere in the mind you are being rigid, then the places in the body which were supposed to be flexible start becoming rigid. And that's how we connecting what's happening in the mind and what is happening to the body. Yeah.
Thank
And
you,
this is
Jayashree.
another. Anvita, she wants to know about molecules of emotion. This is by Candace B. Pert.
Okay.
Yeah.
Put it on. There is a question that emerged from me when I was listening to it. So we have pain in the body, like you said, it goes and sits in different parts of your body, and the natural tendency will be to resort to something like a massage or something to get that physical relief. Does that help with the mental relief as well, or is there a connection there?
It does help. It does help because these locked areas of energy, whatever you say, by massaging, there are two effects. One is by releasing that energy, and physical touch itself is producing. It actually produces another hormone in the body, which is that's why we give babies their massages. So, so you see, the physical touch itself gives another happy hormone production in the body, and definitely helps to alleviate that pain. And this one. However, if it's something like recurring, then we really look at what are the thought patterns, and yeah.
Thank you, Josh. We have a couple more questions. So this is from Harsh. He says men later get frightened in the outside world. There is so much fear. What are the hormonal problems that a man has?
Okay. I think when I look at how what is happening to the men, it would be somewhere an outcome of chronic stress. So when we look at stress itself, you know, imagine during our school days, if we didn't have that stress, I don't think anyone would study for that exam. So we all need this bit of stress to make us function appropriately to that situation we are in. So that is needed. So a bit of stress will make us, all perked up. I'll sit and study and all that stuff. But then there is another type of stress, acute stress, where our whole, the nervous system and the hormonal system will really give out a burst of hormones. It's like, for example, you're sitting quietly and suddenly someone comes and says, "Boo!" What happens to you in your body at that point? Your heart rate goes up. Maybe your hands are shaking, and maybe if it is really you've scared yourself, I mean, there's too much, then maybe a little bit of sweating. And this is also a little when you're walking on the road. You see a dog, or so all these are like somewhere the threat. It's so fast the way it works in our body, the stress. And this is something, no? So very fast from the eyes, the signal goes It doesn't cover you have to understand, the frontal cortex is where we are able to discern, where we are able to understand this sound was not, you know, threatening to my life. But it never reaches that part. It goes straight to the lower part of the brain, which we call in, normal, some of the parlances like reptilian brain, the limbic system. So at that point, what happens? The autonomic nervous system is activated by it's a very quick process, so quick. The adrenal cortex, which is the adrenals are the glands which are right above the kidney, which will release the adrenaline and the cortisols, and your body is all now ready to fight or flight. Either you fight back or you run. So this is the protective mechanism which is there in the body. Of course, there are theories which says this was something which was needed for the cavemen because they were hunting, and and that has carried over to even a modern man. And but the modern man is now fighting modern wars every day or battles every day, and but it's not such a threat. You have to understand, it's really not such a threat. But the mind, the perceives it as threat. So even for perceived threat, the same reaction can happen: flight or fight. So you can see that increase in cortisol. When it is an acute stress, what happens? It's like an injection. You're there. I think there is a sudden spurt in the cortisol which is needed, and the heart rate, all that. But then when you realize it wasn't anything, and then it subsides, comes back to an equilibrium. But what happens when every day you're going out, demands of work, demands of the family, taking up loans, and because of the loans now you have to pay for all, you have to go to that office even if you don't like that boss. Yeah. And you are working at something even though you don't like that project. Yeah. So when all these are stresses, we are slowly collecting. So what happens there? These are stresses, the mind and the body is picking up. So the cortisol levels and even the nervous system is kept at an alert, fight or flight alert. Somewhere is like scaring ourselves into, it's all perceived. And remember that what is stress for me is not a stress for the other person. So stress tolerance is also different for different people. We do wonder, no, how come that fellow is so happy-go-lucky? He's not worried or anything, and here I am breaking my head over this project. Look at him acting so cool, and I am here like the deadline is coming up. So you see, there is something to do with our own personalities also when it comes to stress tolerance. So we need to really look at self, what is happening, and it's also dependent on if there is, how is the general health. When you're not well and you're forced to work, you're only prolonging that illness. So this is a stress. There's a deadline. I'm not able to concentrate. I cannot sit up, but I do it. Is only prolonging the stresses, and so that is what is happening now. We see very young men coming in with heart attacks, hypertension, diabetes. And interestingly, why are men more prone to this than the women when it comes to heart attacks? Somewhere women have the protection of the estrogen and the progesterone because they're in the menstrual age group. But then it becomes equal once the menopause happens. So we are seeing, I have seen myself, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds having heart attacks. Yeah. Somewhere the body is on a high alert. We have to understand that. It's perceived, it's not real, um, and it's not being addressed. It probably would require either a change of job, or it would be also looking at the belief pattern. What is that I think about this? Or even learning skills of saying, sometimes we want to keep saying yes, yes to a lot of works, to learn to say no to somebody. All this is something which we need to really look into. Yeah. And competition, look at it. We are taught competition from birth only, I feel, nowadays. Nobody's allowed to be themselves. Yeah. So that, I
Thank
don't
you.
know if, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think it was very important for all of us to hear the difference between what is perceived fear and what is real fear. So thank you so much for sharing. There is one more question. This is from Prasad. What are the general hormonal disorders that men go through, especially when they do not nurture or know that they need nurturing?
I think, for the men, it would be the outcome of this high cortisol levels. So once this high cortisol levels are increased, you can see it actually at one endpoint. Um, it starts to affect the brain also. It starts affecting the metabolism also. There's high sugars in the body, and then there is now when there is stress and this is on high alert, people are wanting, the libido comes down because reproduction is not needed at that point, because there's someone, when you're trying to fight, the body is all ready to fight, so the sperm genesis comes down. And blood pressure is high, blood sugar is high. So this is what I would say is commonly seen in men. Of course, now we are also seeing some thyroid issues in men. Yeah. And diabetes is also becoming more and more.
Yeah, thank you, Jayashree. We have one more question. Stress is the cause of many diseases in the modern world. We are in a rat race to meet the different aggressive goals. Pollution levels in a city add to general health issues. Mother Nature has been a healer whenever I had hormonal issues. This is from Veena. She asks, could you please share your thoughts on the relationship between stress, hormonal balance, and being with nature?
That's wonderful. If you look at nature, like I was sharing, nature is, there is so much of cycles happening in nature, isn't it? There's a cycle happening outside in nature. We have the moon cycles, and everyday cycle, morning, sunrise, sunset. So this is about nature. And what is happening in the body during an imbalance is we're actually working against the nature. There's, we are not in natural rhythm there. So when we can uh, start aligning ourselves with a natural rhythm, like if you can start waking up at least at sunrise, and start going to bed early. And here, very important is, some is this artificial lighting which has come up. Why is our brain confused? Why are we not able to go to bed before 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock? Is because we are in bright lights every time. So if you can dim the light by, early as possible by evening, if you can reduce the light, and if you could, allow the moon, watch the sky, the sun and the moon in the night, the moon cycles. These are all somewhere we start attuning. Even if you're in a city, you don't have to keep going off on some nature. It's not possible all the time. So somewhere I start, uh, very important is walking barefoot also. we have started walking barefoot on earth. There's no earthing happening. There's no real connection. If you look at acupressure, they will, they are actually pressing all these points to somewhere bring in balance to the body. So walking barefoot on um, earth, that could be. And then, yeah, like eating natural foods. Processed food has been found to actually cause the hormonal imbalances. All those preservatives, the additives, the chemical additives, and what else, sunscreens. I remember a long time back, a colleague of mine in medical college who was going through a lot of fertility, and she had endometriosis issues. And she did a research on her own. And what she understood was many of these, like the sunscreens, the body lotions, the shampoos, even the toothpaste, they all have some chemicals which mimic estrogen. Yeah, so they mimic estrogen. Now, this estrogen, which we already have an estrogen, now there is an elevated estrogen, and it works on it acts on the uterus, and there is excessive uterine tissue which is being formed, which is abnormal, and that is the cause of endometriosis. So, yeah, when if you can become as natural as you can be with natural foods and natural rhythm of the day, and yeah, I think that would also help in balancing of the hormones.
Very true.
Mm.
The next question is somebody whose name starts with S, I guess. So they say, "Hi Jayashree, I have a question. In this competitive world where this world is becoming more masculine, which is causing hormonal imbalance, how to develop the feminine energy? Could you please share this?"
See, now it's very interesting what we're seeing. The development of feminine energy is not. It's not like it's not there. It is there. The feminine is there. It's only that somewhere we have distanced ourselves from that feminine energy. It's there, and you have to understand. In case of women, it would be a deep feminine and a shallow masculine. We need that. It's not like we cannot be without that. Where we need that active, action oriented. This one. So we have to learn. Women need to start learning to become deeply feminine, shallow masculine. And whereas for men, it would be deeply masculine with shallow feminine. Now, people get confused and want to probably think, masculine means to become aggressive. Because, when we say competitive world, uh, how do I, mm, so it is not about becoming aggressive there. It's the go-getter activity, the go-getter action of the masculine is to do somewhere about getting things done without disconnecting with the feminine there. And I actually feel that a lot of these issues when we are spiritually isolated, stress happens. So if I start controlling things around me, which is not possible actually, where somewhere I delude myself and I start controlling things instead of becoming in charge of it, just going with the flow. Uh, so that is where if you look at that's the feminine aspect coming in. That's the nurture. That is where you're listening, and it takes some courage actually to start looking within. It takes the courage to look within and ask, what is that I really want? What has happened is we have started to do things what others want, but somewhere we believe that's what I want. I mean, you have to really look at, am I doing this because I should, or is it because I want to? Because of the social conditionings we are into. So, am I doing this because I want to? And because competition is about somewhere, wanting something the other one has, or I trying to reach the uh, first place. But maybe you never wanted to be in the first place. You're happy to be in the 10th place. So it's important to somewhere really sit down and ask yourself. So that is where you start becoming nurturing yourself. That's where the compassion comes in. That's where love, self-love is also. So turning within, turning inwards, and not looking out. We have distracted ourselves by out. So this is where you can actually start looking in and being content with what is there. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Yashri. And we have another question from Lata Dalvi. She says, hello, ma'am. Please throw some light on scar endometriosis, how it affects the body and mind.
Okay, I don't know much about this aspect about scar endometriosis. However, when I look at uterine issues. Again, whatever I have been observing and looking at. So again, it is somewhere about um, creation, nurture, self-identity, how comfortable you are to be yourself, and whether you're allowing that creative flow and rejoicing in being the woman you are. I wouldn't say this is the only thing, but this is also the body mind connective. Consider, yeah.
Okay. There is one question from Hariharan. He asks, what happens to our hormones when we are in fasting once a week or monthly once, like that? Even if there is a need for fasting for 3 days straight.
Okay, I have not really thought about that part of it. But when you look at, I've been finding very interesting is like, how the trends have been like, now suddenly we have something called as intermittent fasting. Before that, there's 3 meals a day, then 5 meals a day. Now we also want to fast 1 day, now 3 days also. But the fasting. Uh, what I feel that, though I don't know what happens. This one, what I think is, as long as there is no pressure, you're not doing as out of fear or guilt, and there's somewhere that it is something which is deeply resonating for you, go ahead and do it. That time nothing happens to the hormones there.
Thank you, Jayashree. I think we are done with audience questions. If anybody else has more questions, you can put it up on chat. We will take it. Meanwhile, I will read out some beautiful comments that have come to you. So Mahesh says, well said, for in the previous, like in the beginning of the session. And Rakhi says, beautiful. Neetu Gupta says, learning to listen to your body is really needed. And Alka Vyas says it was very informative. And Raghavan says, very beautifully explained. Thanks for explaining in a very layman's term, connecting the environmental factor and how it regulates the thyroid levels. Thanks for sharing and clarifying. Rohit says, wow, that's such an amazing connection. The thyroid throat expression. Thank you for explaining so beautifully and weaving such a beautiful tapestry. Sindhu says, such beautiful thoughts, ma'am. Thank you so much on bringing up them. Sindhu says, thank you again. Harsh says, thank you, Jayashree. Veena says, thank you, Jayashree, especially for bringing up the estrogen level influence by products we use on day-to-day basis. Sindhu says, so profound points, ma'am. Thanks again for mentioning them. Lata Dalvi says, thank you. Prasad says, it was a brilliant explanation, Jayashree. It was needed for everyone to know the alchemy happening inside the body. Monisha Ghosh says, thank you for sharing. Mamta Umesh says, very good information. Thank you, Jayashree. Prasad adds on saying, especially the feminine part, it was needed that someone really explained it to women at large. It's very much needed in the current society. There is another question that has just come up from Shruthi. She says, hi Jayashree, I've been having painful hormonal ache on and off for the past few years. Some of your pointers were very helpful. How do I naturally heal from the inside?
Okay. Okay. I think it was acne, or is it acne?
Sorry, acne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There's something like, when we look at when do we get acne, somewhere, in teenage, the body is going through a lot of changes. And somewhere this acne is also somewhere about rejection of all that self, the changes which are happening. Some, later stages when we start to get it also, it's again a rejection of the self. Who am I? Somewhere it does represent, lack of self-love. So we start to work from there, and start looking, exploring what are the beliefs. We don't know where that thing is, so we start exploring what are the beliefs about being a woman, what are your beliefs about being a man, or what is the belief about the world, or what is the belief about sex. We can look at all different, we put it up, we start exploring the beliefs there, and then we also that slowly, it's looking at the emotional aspect of it. Somewhere it would also about, is it about forgiveness, is it some anger I'm holding on to, or is it a grief which I'm holding? So something which has to be led through, in a safe environment. It has to be led through, you need to be held through this when we are unraveling ourselves. If we are trying to do this on our own, sometimes we scare ourselves. So if you can do it with a trained therapist, or start exploring with, and actually, yeah, that is one way of looking at this. The psychological aspect is about all this, incorporating meditation. Something which beautifully, which I came up to me was like, I really like what Sivapriya does. Play. We have forgotten to play. We have become so serious in our lives. There's no fun. There's no joy there. So bring that by play. And I think Sivapriya does a beautiful work there. So
Dance
it's very,
too.
yeah, dance, movement, physical movement, moving the body is very important there. So it's very interesting. All this, imagine, as not, it's not like, when we say play, it's, these are the Western researchers who are coming up with, the logical brain needs some explanations. We just, if I say play, then how does that help my hormonal balance is something someone wants to ask. There are a lot of articles which have come up in how beautifully that helps. And yeah, and I really like the mirror work by Louise Hay, which I was doing for a long time, and looking at myself in the mirror and saying these affirmations of self love. Initially, it sounds very when I say I love myself, when actually you're going through a lot of anger towards self or something, it's okay, just keep doing it. It's like we are trying to reframe, teach the neural, the brain also different thing about ourselves. So, looking into the mirror and doing the mirror work, these are different ways of working, and best to do it in a safe with the support of a therapist. Yeah, and all that diet. There again, diet comes in. These are all some things which you have to look at.
Thank you, Jayashree. I think it was very informative to everybody because a lot of us don't know what the reason is behind having acne or face scars. Thank you for sharing that. We have more comments from the audience. Ragini Tiwari says, "Thank you for bringing the beautiful mind and physical connect. So important and immensely helpful to go ahead with the flow and reconnecting better with the feminine energy. Thanks a lot." Veena says, "Beautiful suggestion to bring play and joy in our lives. Totally resonate with it. Thank you, Jayashree." Aishwarya says, "Thanks, Jayashree, for explaining in detail and sharing the knowledge and experiences, connecting imbalances to a much deeper level, psychosomatic. Listen to body when it whispers, otherwise it will scream."
Yeah.
I think there are no more comments or questions. Thank you, Jayashree. Thank you so much for being here today and telling us a lot about our hormones, our body. And we have one more comment. Okay, I think it's a question. After identifying the whole hormonal system is imbalanced, as you mentioned, when I failed to listen to my body whisper, it turned into disorder. I still believe the body itself can heal once the emotional balance and body balance are in alignment. Can you suggest a slow pace to turn into a balanced hormonal state?
Okay. Um, I think getting into a some daily routine first is something where you can look into getting into a daily routine. Again, not something if I miss waking up at 6 o'clock every day, start beating oneself up or something. But with a joy, I'm wanting to wake up at sunrise and then starting the day. And something which worked a lot for me was ending the day with gratitude. If you can every day sit at the end of the day and start writing it out. What am I grateful for today? And one thing what helped me also getting a gratitude a buddy. So I roped in another person. So it has been a beautiful life for the past 2 months writing. This gratitude thing, which I was doing long years, that again I've started it again. So I found that somewhere that starts, we have started to take life so seriously, but we forget, and the focus is on what is not there instead of bringing the focus onto what is there, how much of grace is flowing in our lives. So gratitude list is something you start writing it down. I think that would really that's a slow paced way of coming into the balance. And then what can I do every day for myself? This was something I've learned. What can I do something for myself? Maybe 20 minutes per day, what I like. Then that's when you don't feel that your whole life is for others. I am doing something for myself. Is something you start doing it every day and incorporating that. into your life. And yeah, I know something came, and also I don't know what, he just went off also. Hmm.
Thank you, Jayashree. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Um, we have more comments from people. There is Naman Kansara who says, "Thank you so much for the wonderful and informative session. You explained it in the easiest way about hormones." Shresht Vyas says, "Great session. Thank you, Jayashree, Mandala Festival, for hosting this, and all the people who asked such helpful questions. Learned a lot today." Uh, Dharani says, "Very true. Life has been taken serious," as a response to what you were giving to her question. Sudharsan says, "Thank you for the beautiful explanation about the mind impacts the body connection. That explanation helped me understand that the relationship between the mind and the body is more symbiotic than I had understood previously. Gratitude." Queena Patel says, "Nowadays, so many girls and women occur menstrual cycle is not regular. So, what can we do for it?" And I also have the same problem. It's a question.
Yeah,
It
one
will,
is,
sorry.
uh,
Yeah, you can carry.
yeah. See, something is, is it, first of all, we start to worry about some problem. That is like a double whammy to the body there. You have one stress, and then the second stress is like, I'm worried about my illness. So stop worrying so much about the body. The body is telling you something. So can I listen to it? And that is where even something which came up was, every thing is giving you something, something about what's happening. So um, thanking that part which has come up, which is telling us something. We just want to get rid of it. We want to get rid of that part which is telling, hey, it's like a small child, which is telling, I want attention, I want attention. Will you just, pack that child in one room and forget about it? No. Now you're really going to look at the child with compassion. What's that you want? Is it the nurturing you want? Instead of trying to bring in fear, guilt, or shame. Yeah. And then you have to look at your the lifestyle. The lifestyle, what is your activity schedule, food habits, yeah, and weight. These are all some indications about what's happening to the menstrual cycle. So you need to look at that uh, aspect. And if it is still an issue, if it's still, I think you have to address it. Do look at what are their hormone imbalances which are happening. Can it be corrected without medication? Can it be corrected with medication? Is something which you'll have to explore. And yeah. And I saw a question about menstrual cycles and activity. Yeah, that is one thing I think we really have to look at ourselves and decide whether you want to be active during a time when the body is saying rest. Is something you need to ask yourself, because we have actually moved away from a natural cycle. The time during menstruation is the time where the energies are actually, the flow is going out. There's an energy which is moving downwards. So if that in that time you're trying to, because we have all the how to say, we have pads which are there for, which will take for an entire day. You don't have to change. Then you have a lot of things which are encouraging the women to be act. And there are people who say, oh, I ran the 100 meters in the Olympics during my periods. It gives a boost of energy and all that. So what works for one person may not be working for the rest. It's about you to be in tune with your body and asking, do I need to sit quietly? And, the 3 days actually has been found, where is the time for the body, for the women to rest. So it's a decision you'll have to make. Yeah.
Very true. I think, but there are certain times when we plan something way ahead and we don't know when our cycle is. Our next question is about that. It's about the expedition that we're going for next month. Um, it's a lot of women on the trip have their menstrual cycle during the expedition. What is the care that we need to take during the expedition for helping the women and support them to go through the cycle as well as the expedition too?
I mean, okay. I think somewhere then mentally be prepared for that. Don't get angry with your body when you get your periods during some event like this. We tend to, oh, why did I get my periods now? It has to come, it is coming. So be prepared mentally for that. And then be vulnerable. You are feeling tired, express it out. Take the support of the other women who are there or even the men around there. Express it out. It's okay to be, feeling tired and weak or, and so to express that vulnerability. So being true to what is happening in your body is something I would, you know, um, suggest.
Thank you, Jayashree. I think it was very informative to me personally and to everybody who's going on the trip and to other people who would be going on trips when you have your period cycle. So thank you for sharing that. And Raghavan says, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge on hormones. This was more than the textbook. I really enjoyed how calmly you explained each and every question, and bridging the science with body mandala was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dharani says, the talk was so much in equilibrium. Thank you, Jayashree, for this wonderful evening. We'll soon get in touch with you for further clarification and development on working with body mind.
Yeah.
It was relatable, rejoicing when you mentioned body itself is mandala, from inside out and outside environment to the internal parts. I have just started knowing it. Thank you, Jayashree. If anybody in the group has any questions or wants to get in touch with Jayashree, you can get in touch with the Mandala team and we can put you in touch with her anytime. Thank you so much, Jayashree. It was a beautiful evening. I think I learned so much personally. I did not know. I always thought hormones was about what we learned in the science textbook, and that is what it is, complicated names to pronounce and all that. I think today I have started realizing what it means to have a hormonal imbalance or a balance. Thank you so much for sharing it. And also the aspect where you spoke about expressing feelings, being in a good environment, keeping your surrounding the way you want it, and mental health, the acceptance of a child. All these things are very important that I haven't heard about anywhere before. So thank you so much for sharing that as well. And one of the most important things that I related to personally is the feminine and masculine energy, especially in the modern world. Because I think as a girl in her early 20s, there is a lot of data and information out there that I tend to get confused. Women are supposed to be like this or this or this, which is the right way to be. So that concept of explaining how women have to be deeply feminine and have the shallow masculine energy, and how men have to be deeply masculine and have the shallow feminine energy, I think that brought so much clarity to me. And I hope it has brought so much clarity to everybody in the group as well. Thank you so much for touching on those important points. My biggest takeaway, like many others in the group, is that listen to your body when it whispers rather than when it screams. So thank you so much for sharing that and for being here and taking all the questions and answering so patiently and calmly. Thank you. Also,
Thank
thank you, Bhagya. Yeah, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Mandala team and Pavithram, for this wonderful opportunity. It's ignited the passion I feel within me. Yeah. Thank you very much for this platform. Thank you. And thank you for all those wonderful questions and the participants who were here. Thank you very much. And
Thank you. Thank you, Bhagyashree. Thank you, Sivapriya. Thank you for coming up with such amazing questions and holding the flow together. Thank you so much for that. And thanks to the audience who have been extremely participative, who came up with very, very important questions that we have to understand and know about. So thank you for being such a lovely and vibrant set of audience. Thank you so much for that. Thank you everybody for coming today. See you all in the next events. Om Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityo ma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Thank you, everybody.